redemption, and blessed fruit of thy womb, Jesus. David's Verb, St. Jude, Lady of Victory, Lady of Sorrows, Lady of Christians, St. Emerenciana. Did you get the other Shure mic up and running to handheld? We're going to both running. So then, we normally try to have at the very end here a little discussion type of thing towards the end, a little later on today. We did the last couple of years, but trying to get Father Poisson over here. So see what happens. And then, oh, there we are. You're good, Father. I thought you were doing a no-show on me. Okay. No, wait, here, yeah. Good. I was worried, Father. I thought you were pulling a, Okay, fine. I have complete confidence. But, okay. and also, Father Parker has to come out a bit and everything. Say, okay, so you give your little spiritual. Yes, but we'll do that after. We're all three of us will be up here discussing. But but that'll be after. Okay, so you're ready to go. So now I'll give this to you, then, Father. Draw this here. It's a mystery. Just a mic, because you can't hear it all. It's impossible. I usually stick it in my pocket or in your sash or something. No, I mean this part can clip up here. But now, you can sit down. I would just put that in your pocket or on the sash or something. Did I say the prayer? I did, yeah. Yes.
Testing.
Okay, so I think most of you already know some of the history, how I got here. So I'll do maybe a different routine or give it just a brief summary. So 1990s when I joined seminary at Priestly Fraternity St. Peter in Germany, Bavaria. And before that I came from a dairy farm 85 miles northwest of Ottawa, Ontario. And I had 2 years agriculture diploma, and then 5 years computer science degree, and then 2 years working. So I was a later vocation. I was friends with a sort of like conservative Novus Ordo priest, so I knew with my vocation that I would never join a Novus Ordo seminary. And I was only saying the Church of Latin Mass. I was convinced at that point, even before joining seminary, that I would never say an English Mass. So I was guided, I guess, to tradition by, again, what's higher?
The mic, we put the mic up here where they'll stick.
Oh.
I'll put another mic. That could be good.
Okay. Okay, so at that time, 1990, I had no idea about, I just listened to what people told me, the conservative priests and the few people I knew about the Latin Mass, very few, since I grew up in Novus Ordo environment. So they said, well, they gave me some options about Latin Mass seminaries. None of them was Pius X. I only found about Pius X when I got to Germany. And it was all negative, right? They're outside the church, nothing to do with them. So I just, I just trusted my superiors or people who told me these things that, that's God's will. So I just continued in the seminary here in Germany, do the best I can. Even though German was not my language, I was struggled with that, but I could at least write my exams in English and maybe butcher my German. So if I had to write, I think I write 2 or 3 tests in German altogether, so I was blessed with that since the professors understood English. So the language problem, I was very blessed with good classmates, so they helped me with this, with the class notes and the lectures to get me through that. So 1990, joined the seminary, and then 1996, ordained in Scranton. I spent my last few months in America doing practical work as a deacon, subdeacon. Then finished my courses by correspondence. And so I got ordained in Scranton, Pennsylvania. And then skipping to 2013 was when I left the fraternity, and then Father Pfeiffer just last spring. So I want to answer the question more focused on this interview, we want to call it an interview, of why so long? Like, why didn't I jump right away to Pius X once I found out? Well, again, I trusted the people talking to me, whether my seminarians or the priests in fraternity, that, Pius X is out of the, Archbishop Lefebvre was excommunicated, they're outside the church, don't get it, So I just, I was very focused on my studies and just being ordained as a traditional priest and doing my duties, right, as a priest when I was ordained. And again, it was not for nothing, because all this, as being a priest, one of the earlier priests ordained, I was again involved in pioneer work like we're doing now. So like going to places where there was no church, or setting up altars. So I was involved in that pioneer work, which of course is very helpful now since I've been through that. So it's not a surprise. So one of the reasons why was because of the information I received, and I trusted what I received, that they're outside the church, so I didn't go investigating. I just relied on my focus on what I was supposed to do as a traditional priest. But that, of course, wore off as I started to see things happening around me. Things like, superiors, new superiors being more liberal, and stuff like that. And then other things that affected me was I would be harassed by my sermons, being too harsh or too hard on whatever I preached. At first it was just me, but then later on I found out it's the whole system, right? And then I found out more, again, through providential assignments. One of those assignments back in 2005 was headquarters, and to help out with some office duties there, and also to start up the chapel in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania on Sundays as a part-time circuit. So being in, of course, the headquarters, they get all information. So they had a nice stack of Angelus magazines, inventory. So I was reading those. I was saying, I feel more like a society priest with a fraternity habit, right? So what they were telling and what they're, I guess in the old days, right? But Father Scott and Father Novak and Bishop Williamson, what their articles back in the old days were very, to the truth, right? Compared to what they're doing now. But, so that really opened my eyes a bit, asking questions. And then together with that, because, when you're trying to find the truth, for example, if Archbishop Lefebvre was excommunicated, then as a rule, you don't try to go to their source. Well, that's maybe initial, but you try to go to other sources to confirm the truth, that they're telling the truth about this situation. It's not a biased opinion, right? Like, he's our bishop, so he's not excommunicated, right? So I got other sources slowly. Again, just providential, that people would come into my life, or I would get some pamphlet or some information about a lawyer's opinion about the excommunication. That wasn't a lawyer that was part of the society, that would have the same, pointing to the same conclusion, that he was not excommunicated by canon law. So that was a factor to turn my eyes in a different direction, or question fraternity. Because basically, if Archbishop Lefebvre was not excommunicated, then the fraternity of St. Peter is built on a lie, because that's how they form. Excommunicated, or go with Rome and start a new society. So that was a major factor, along with, like I mentioned, the changes in the more liberal direction of my new superiors being elected, and other factors like even like going back in my memory, how things started to click or fall into place, why this happened, why that happened. For example, you know, like how can, as I understood more about modernism, or reading about modernism, how could, you know, we not know about that? Well, they couldn't. I only heard it once mentioned in the first year of my seminary education by a priest, but there was never a course in it, or never explained. So, and then, you know, when you found out about what modernism is, then you realize they couldn't really explain it because they're part of it, right? Going on with the Novus Ordo bishops, and going with being quiet about the changes or the stuff like that. So that was one thing, learning more about modernism that made my move. And then the other thing was the silence, you know, about the truth. And as you know, some famous quotations from various saints, you can't be silent when it comes to the truth. And we had to do that in many occasions when it was against the local bishop, or not to disturb the peace, so to speak, to keep your fraternity assignment. You know, you can't have a parish without saying yes, yes, yes to what the bishop says. And that, I got thinking about that. Again, that was, when you put all the pieces together, then you can sort of come to a conclusion. When it's just one, for example, I have no choice. They're outside the church, then you can't sort of put the pieces together, right? So I have to, I guess, obey the bishop, right? Or be silent about that issue. I can't talk about that on the sermon because of that. But when the pieces start to come together, like there's not excommunicated, and there's actually modernism in the fraternity, and the superiors are getting more liberal because of what modernism is. That's the way modernism works, and all that. These all coming together, that I finally had enough information actually to make my move. Now, when I left in 2013, again, of course, we have devotion to Our Lady in different ways, how she again guided me to this decision. When I left, I did not know where I was going. You know, I just knew I had to leave. So I left, and then I said, well, Our Lady will take care of me somehow and guide me to whatever I have to go. Either just stay at home with my mom, my widow, she's a widow, just take care of her until the triumph of Immaculate Heart, or Our Lady will tell me to go somewhere else, you know. So being in that situation back on the home farm, you know, helping my mother, and of course my brother took over the farm, and he was turning a cash crop farm, so he could use my help sometimes in the summer, and just being more, you know, you know, penitential life, more prayerful life, just waiting for God's discernment. Also at this time, to let you know, when I left in 2013, the little computer life I did have, you know, I didn't want to do it, but one of my former pastors told me to help with the bulletin, so he got me a laptop, because I knew it, you know, I just wanted to have a more spiritual life. I knew computers would affect your spiritual life, so I didn't really want to push that, but he wanted, so I kept this. Anyways, in 2013, I threw away my laptop, so there's no internet between 2013 and before I joined Father Pfeiffer last spring. So that, you know, that should show that there's more divine intervention in my life than just, you know, searching the web to see where I can get my next job, so to speak. So left fraternity, that means no salary. With fraternity, there was this, it's different from society priests. You get a sort of a salary. It's not as much as a diocesan priest. So what they do is, for example, if a diocesan priest gets, wherever you're working, if a diocesan priest gets, say, $2,000 a month for their salary, and fraternity gives you $900 with a car allowance included, then the difference between $900 and $2,000 goes to headquarters. So that's how they do it. So we sort of live in the spirit of poverty with that reduced salary. So no salary, no whatever other benefits, whatever. Is when you leave fraternity, that's it, right? So I'm on my own. So just living, under my mom's, I guess she gets an old age pension. So just bare facts like that. So and no internet. So just prayerful life, just doing what God wants me to do. And at the same time, during those couple of years, my mom has sort of a little library of good books, so I did read some things that would clear up things more, like something like what mentioned more about Archbishop Lefebvre from other sources, but his excommunication, about modernism, and just how, in general, the Church of Vatican II works, and what is rotting away the faith from other sources, whether it be Malachi Martin's books or Father Gruner, Battle Crusader, and so on. So, and then another special intervention was there was some really strange person before I left, like 2000, and I think it was 2011, before my trip, my 9 months in Nigeria, before I left Canada, there was some lady that just out of the blue gave me this relic of Pius X. Even though I didn't have any papers, but it was exact, Father Hugo mentioned, it was the exact same one as we have here in the sacristy. But I don't have the papers for it. So, and I was always wondering, what does that mean? Does that mean I have to join Pius X or whatever? So that was always back in my mind. In fact, so much so that before calling Father Pfeiffer through reference through one of my friends, former parishioners, I actually visited, had a meeting with the rector in Toronto, the prior in Toronto of Pius X. In November, I think the first week in around November 10th or so in November, so it'll be 2 years this November, so 2017. Just a couple weeks before I talked to Father Pfeiffer on the phone. So, and that meeting was again a lot of red flags. Again, remember I did have nothing to do with internet, so I didn't know how Pius X was doing the last 3 or 4 years, although I'm not much of a gossip reader anyways. But I was just had so much, internal turmoil of listening to what he said. But we're just about with Rome. We call it the prelature is all on paper. It's just a matter of signing it. So he's all excited about joining Rome. I said, what? You really want to join Rome? I was really nervous, right, about the interview. But anyway, so I never, replied to his invitation to go to Toronto for a visit. So I never went to there because it was totally against what I thought he would say at that time. I was just thinking. So that was November 10th, and then I got a phone call on the Feast of the Immaculate Conception, Miraculous Medal, November 27th, from a former parishioner in Niagara Falls. Well, she was both Pius X and Fraternity St. Peter when I knew her. I was in St. Catharines for 4 years as a chaplain there. So she just wanted to, some mass intentions, and then she started talking about, what I was doing, whatever. And then I just said, I just had this wonderful idea, just before you called me, that maybe I should just go from the East Coast to the West Coast and just go wherever people want me to home, and just preach about Fatima, and just have private Latin Mass at their home, and just keep going, and just preach Fatima. Maybe that's what God wants me to do, until the triumph. So then she said, I guess that's a good idea, but did you ever hear of Father Pfeiffer? Who's he? Now I must admit, before I left 2013, I heard some of my brother priest talking about, some name Father Pfeiffer, but of course I'm just so focused on what I have to do that I never got into it, right? So it's just like another name in the world. So So, okay, well, who is he, or how can I contact him? If it's God's will, maybe he'll answer the phone tonight, you know, in the Speaks of Our Lady, right? So, well, okay, so she didn't know I had the phone number. I guess she had her friend in Toronto Resistance, I guess Diane, yeah, she's here. Yeah, I gave her the phone number, and then she called me back. So, okay, with God's will, he'll answer the phone right now. So sure enough, Father Fiver, hello, it's Father Fiver, some airport, you know, Monday night. So, oh yeah, it's good, yeah. Well, come on down and visit, you know. So we're all excited, oh, good, okay, I try to do that. And then like a couple minutes after, I said, oh no, I gotta call him back, right, you know. Because I'm, you know, sort of look after my mom this winter. It's all November, and here in Canada, so I call him back. And here in Canada, we always have snow, so so you know, and I promised my mom and my neighbor to take care of the snow removal. Like, you know, I use my brother's big John Deere tractor and the snow blower, because we have a laneway a quarter of a mile to the road and long laneways, so you need a snow blower in Canada for that. Yeah, snowplow won't do the trick, because snowplow just those drifts and then or banks, and you have drifts, and then it doesn't work. So you need to blow it out with a big snowblower with a tractor. So, anyways, I was the only one they could find that winter, because they couldn't find any local farmers to do the job. So I said, well, I feel obliged to stay one more winter and look after my mom. So, you know, I really want to go, but I'll have to wait till after Easter when the snow is gone. So that's what I did. After Easter, we got contact again, and then finally got a plane ticket from Buffalo to Louisville on May 2nd. And the rest is history. So getting back to one more piece of the puzzle, because, you know, resistance, how does that fit in with, you know, I got this relic of Pius X, you know, how does that fit in with my puzzle, right? All I hear is resistance, you know, it doesn't sound good, right? So, you know, finally, like, I forget, maybe it's 4 or 5 days being here, and then at the back of the chapel, I got one of their bulletins or write-ups, Father Pfeiffer, and then I saw the title, you know, Pius X, Marin Corps. That's it! It's there, right? Pius X, right? Still there, right? So I said, oh, that fits that puzzle. You know, so that would make me happy. So that, and then of course being Our Lady of Mount Carmel, I had devotion to Our Lady of Mount Carmel, and of course Our Lady in general. So that's another good sign, and all these signs were good. And then instead of being here, I know more of the history of the place. It's a holy place, so that's another check mark. And just, you know, in general, like because some priests wouldn't take this, you know, chickens here. What is this? You know, it's crazy. You know, well, I come from a farm. It doesn't bother me. You know, or even that, I was in Nigeria for 9 months, and all they have is chickens running around, right? So it didn't bother me, right? So, you know, and Pat Pablo doesn't bother me, you know, like. He's a great person. Why don't you see the good in him? All you look at is, you know, the other side, right? No, but, you know, because I had so much experience with international experience with different groups of people, he doesn't bother me. It's those people that only focus, like, they only live in one place all their life, and well, he's not like me, so he must be bad. You know, that's a poor judgment, right? So, yeah, so that international experience really helps what I'm doing now, and so everything seems to fit in, right? My pioneer experience as a priest fits quite well with our circuits right now, and yeah. So even though I regret that I didn't, you know, see the modernism or whatever between St. Peter, still Our Lady, you know, it prepared me for what I'm doing now. So whatever good comes out of evil, right? God can do that, right? So, yeah, so I'm happy to be here, and right now I can't visit Canada because I'm still waiting for my visa to be officially processed. So I have to regret visiting my comrades out north. It's for, I don't know how long, but I got lots of work here anyway, so it'll keep me busy, right? So, any questions maybe I can answer that you might have, or anything? I know I had a similar interview in January by Professor, what's his name? Shanowski. So if you want more information, you can just go on the internet and see what he wrote up. So, but you got any special, particular questions, you can answer them now if you want.
Father, a lot of people experience a journey like that, where they go from point A to point B, and it's very convoluted in a clear journey like that. And you wonder why God just doesn't get right to the point. You know, why is this same for all this experience that happens all the time to people?
Yeah, it was so like a big shock for me, right, to leave. So that's why, maybe that's another reason why it took me so long to maybe, or maybe God just allowed me to have some time to relax a bit before you get into the next assignment, right, before 2017. Because it's like their whole life, and you decide it's not the right boat, I have to get out. And then, what am I supposed to do? I don't know, but I have to get out, you know, and just wait and wait. So it's like 3-4 years, right? So that's a lot of time to discern and be quiet and see what God wants me to do.
And then also is he working? Okay, good. They have, and Father Vegas, we're going to ask for an introduction of Father Pankras Raja. And I don't know if he wants us to do an official introduction tonight. I don't know if we'll go through with it, but we'll see. In any case, do you say, maybe Father, you can, because Father Pankras, many people are asking about the history of Father Pankras. You can come up. You got to help him come up. Yeah. So so thank you, Father. But the history of but no, go ahead. Yes, ma'am. Go ahead.
Yes, Father Poisson, I myself enjoyed the talk. Thank you very much for doing what you're doing, and I'm very happy that you're here.
Because so when the society came to India in 1985, Father Pankras was there, and was the kind of the history of the society of St. Pius X in India is our history of the society with Father Pankras, in more than really anything else. And that so anyway, Father's going to tell a little bit the story of his journey to the society as well. And then I met Father Pankras in 2002 when I went to India to preach an Ignatian, to preach a priest retreat. I was asked to go to India to preach a retreat there. I didn't know that I would be stationed there, and I spent a little over a month in India, and was there actually to meet with one of my classmates, Father Tom Blut, was a priest in India for 8 years and built a lot of our work in India. He did a great deal of our work building the Society of St. Pius X in India. And it was a classmate of mine, and I went over to be with him, and Father Couture asked me to come over to preach a retreat and also to work with one of the priests there who was considering departing the society and trying to help him to stay, and then of course make a visit, and then of course preach a priest retreat, our priest retreat in January of that year. And they was then preaching that priest retreat that I met Father Pankras, and that didn't know I would be coming back. I came back for another visit again, and when I was in the Philippines, and then I ended up being stationed in India as of I think 2007, and then also worked with Father Pankras in India with our orphanage and with our work. Contacted us with many people of tradition over there. But in any case, Father, you go ahead and tell the basics of your story of the journey into tradition and then with the society.
Yes, in 1980 onwards, my spiritual director, Father Anthony Xavier, guided me to get into contact with traditional Holy Mass. Just then, my spiritual director did never celebrate New Mass at all. Though New Mass was introduced there, this priest denied, I will not celebrate the new Mass facing the people in the new right, never. She was as strong as Archbishop Lefebvre, and he got some contact about Michael Davis first, who wrote Apologia of Archbishop Lefebvre, which was read by me also. I was slowly convinced. I was ordained actually 1968. That was the last year when seminarians were ordained in the old rite. I was fortunate enough to be ordained by a old rite bishop. In the old rite, I was ordained. In the very next year, the bishop was asked by Rome to introduce the new rite of ordination. So, as soon as I went to the parish as an assistant parish priest, the parish priest there also was a traditional priest. He was very old and sick. He could not celebrate community mass. Therefore, I was asked to offer the community mass every day in the new rite. It was not very pleasing to me, and I had to do a hybrid mass, like celebrating mass some year, 1 or 2 years, facing the people, of course, but following the translation of the old rite mass. Only that I could do. Even that the bishop was opposing very much. In the meanwhile, we had contact from Econ, Switzerland. Archbishop Lefebvre sent one priest and a deacon to find out a place in India where they can start a mass center. Father Laroche and Deacon Exposito. When they came there, they were given the address of a priest there by companion, my friend, who was in the bishop's house as the procurator to the bishop. That priest was helped by the mother of Superior General of the Society of Pius X, Schmidberger. So that address of that priest was with him, therefore he gave that address to these priests to go to my diocese and see that priest and find out any possibility of starting a mass center there. After failing in Kerala and in Andhra, 2 states, there also 2 people were known to Archbishop Lefebvre, but they were all political leaders. Therefore, they did not want to encourage to start a mass center. They failed. And at last they came to see this priest in my diocese who already knew about my attachment to the old mass. When these priests went to the bishop's house, the bishop opposed. They should not be given a place here. They are rebels. They are black cats. No place to stay. No altar to offer mass. Send them away immediately. That priest was told by the bishop. Since this priest was a good one, he immediately contacted me and sent those priests to me. That was the first contact of the SSPX in my life. So we went to a hotel, found a room there, and arranged for a mass that evening. I had many friends for me, chiefly young people, because I was for 5 years youth director in the diocese. So some 25 young men came immediately to start the mass center on the very day by saying mass by those priests. They remained for a few days and went away. But occasionally, once in 2 months or 3 months, some priests used to come there, and I was the one who took them round to various dioceses and parishes to introduce to my own people whom I knew, to celebrate Mass, of course, in private places, not in the church. And my bishop told, I am going to punish you if you are encouraging these priests to come here. Okay, I didn't worry about it. Then after 6 months, we got a parish where the parish priest left the parish and ran away because the people did not give the church property and his funds in the hands of the priests. So those people came and asked me whether I can make arrangement for taking that parish to be the first parish of the SSPX. Yes, I contacted Icon and Father Fele before becoming bishop. Father Fele came to celebrate Holy Week Mass there. And that was the beginning of actually official Mass center. And in that place, after some times, the bishop took charge of the parish and drove these priests away. But there were some 150 people. They were ready to purchase a land and build a church. Of course, the society was helping financially. And that was the first church built also there. And I used to be always with those priests, in spite of my oppositions. At the end, my parish, my bishop removed me from the work of a parish priest. Simply kept me imprisoned in the bishop's house. Sometimes I was remaining there, and in the meanwhile I arranged to go to Icon. After 2 months I went with Father Laroche, the professor of Icon Seminary, to Switzerland. 6 months I stayed there. I had a good experience with Archbishop Lefebvre. And after 6 months, Archbishop sent me to London to help the superior there in the Mass Center. I was going about throughout England. I was sent to various Mass centers to say Mass for 2 years. Afterwards, I wanted to have some experience with Father Gruner in Canada. And I went to him, stayed with him 6 months. I was not very much enticed by his apostolate because that was not at all originated in liturgical or devotional practices, only literary magazine. Very good, of course, but he did not want to start a kind of a devotional center or Mass center or publicly saying Tridentine Mass for the people. No. In the meanwhile, I had some contact with the people in Toronto who were going for Mass to Father Warwick, say the vacantist priests. And these people were already very much dissatisfied with that priest. And I happened to go there for once to conduct the first Saturday celebration with the statue of Our Lady of Fatima of Father Gruner. And people were very much attached. They immediately asked me to go to Toronto, stay there, open a Mass center. At that time there was no Mass center of the SSPX there. So when I went there to stay, I said goodbye to Father Gruner, and these people were encouraging me. I was contacting the SSPX, and for 1 year I was working as a priest of the Mass center there. 150 people I found. Then it was time for me to go to India back, 91. So I gave the group to the SSPX and went away. When I went back to India, there already they had built a very big house for the SSPX, and 5 or 6 mass centers. I was passively accepted, not actively, due to some obstacles of some people, some women who did not want to give me proper position in the SSPX. Somehow I was not given active participation for some years until Father Blood came from here. When Father Blood came, then he asked me to go and stay with him and work for the society. At that time only Father came to give retreat there. And I was with them until 2008. In 2008, I had to undergo an operation, a severe major operation in my spinal cord. The superiors at that time were not ready to spend money for me. They said, you find your own way. So I have no other way except to go to the bishop's house and claim my right there to stay there, though I was privately celebrating traditional mass. I was not given any public celebration or anything. So I was there for some times. Now in 2018, September or August, Father came there back. I was all alone saying Mass in my room only. Some people used to come there. And I was not able to walk and go about doing any missionary work. Father asked me, why don't you come to Kentucky? I said, you know my position. I have to be carried. And she said, no, don't worry about anything. You first come there to preach a retreat for the seminarians. That's all. So immediately I came last year, September, to preach a retreat for the seminarians. And I am staying here now with full-fledged permission of the government to stay here for 3 years. It is a miracle, Father says. It's a miracle that I am allowed to stay here. I am very, very happy because at this age and ill health, I could enjoy the real sacrifice of the Mass. Only that with much pain I can do. Only that. But that is my pleasure now. Till the end of my life I would like to be here enjoying all the faith, morals, tradition, liturgical celebrations with the help of the seminarians. I simply enjoy life. People from India ask me, when are you coming? When are you coming back? Don't expect me back. I don't come. That's all. So, at least hearing your confessions and giving some spiritual advice and saying Trident in Mass as much as possible is my hobby now. I am simply enjoying life. Now you may ask any particular questions.
Well, a few things. Father left out about a few hundred things, but one of them is that he actually had the privilege of being officially incommunicated because they can't spell excommunicated. And when he helped the society, the bishop gave an official excommunication. Only it was spelled incommunication, which means he's more in communion than your average guy. But they didn't know how to put EX on the form, they put IN. You are incommunicated. And the incommunication went to Rome, was upheld by Rome. So he actually had an excommunication. And to show you the value of it, they even forgot about it and don't care because they know that it's ridiculous. but he did receive an official excommunication. And then also, of course, with regard to, I was there in 2008 when Father no longer received the support. He actually experienced what many priests have experienced who have worked with the society, and that is that they received a promise from Archbishop Lefebvre back in the 80s, and or from other superiors, specifically from Archbishop Lefebvre, that he was excommunicated. He was thrown out of his parish, as was Monsignor Hodgson, an Australian priest from Melbourne Diocese, who helped here in the United States for many years. And they were given a promise that they would be taken care of by the Society of St. Pius X until they died. However, once he became sick, in the case of Father, he had back problems, and then they decided that we're not going to take care of it. And so that in fact what happened was that many of the lay people in India, sometimes people that he met in train stations, seeing that it was hard for him to walk around, because just because he can't walk doesn't mean he doesn't travel on a train or doesn't go around and say the Mass. Those things didn't stop him from doing those things. And then some people we met in train stations who met for the first time just simply paid a medical bill, got him into the hospital, into the doctor, because once he was no longer, and then of course he also established a school in India and was supporting also the work of trying to get young men prepared for vocations. Many of our young priests, Indian priests in the society came from Father Pankras. The same thing also with regard to our orphanage, the orphanage in South India that the Society of St. Pius X has. It's Father that met the people to convert them and bring them back to tradition, and then and now be with us in the South. So that there's been a lot of apostolic work as far as converting people to the Catholic faith or back to the Catholic tradition, sending them off to the seminaries or to the convents connected with the Society of St. Pius X for the last more than 30 years. And so with the many obstacles, and of course some of the obstacles of course are unfortunately on the inside. But in any case, it's also been a great help, Father, being here the last 6 months or 8 months, 9 months. It's been a big help because of the wisdom and helping with the seminarians and with myself. The wisdom of an old warrior has been a great help as far as persevering in the battle and the struggles that we've had. And then is maintaining a firm faith there. And then many other little details. He said there are problems. He said there were problems, and that's enough to say, I guess. But as usual, many troubles, because with regard to Father's 50 years of priesthood, not just a priest because he's been a priest for 50 years, but during those 50 years has many battles. Many battles preserving the faith, many battles bringing people back to Catholic tradition, many battles fighting the bishop where he got excommunicated or incommunicated, and battles also unfortunately with dealing with certain priests in our beloved society, and also of course in his normal battle of just spreading the faith. He also has been in many contact with all kinds of priests trying to bring them back to Catholic tradition, and he's been doing that for many years as well. And of course some have come close back to tradition, some have celebrated the Latin Mass sometimes, and then we've been able to get a few bringing back to tradition. And one of the mysteries of India, there's been a mystery of India for the whole 2,000 years the Catholic Church has been there, and we experienced it ourselves, and that is that it is a place in which there is a devil. There is a devil. Hinduism is a great demonic religion. And being a priest in India, I can tell you that you can physically feel, after you've been there for a while working in the battlefield, you can physically feel a weight. I remember feeling as I was working there, a physical weight. I could feel the presence of like demons pushing down. Could feel it all the time. You don't feel it right away when you arrive, but you really feel a weight. You're fighting against demons. Of course, we're fighting against demons everywhere. And one of the things that happens whenever you build something up, something happens. And it's a different thing every time. That just causes it to collapse. And it's been going on for 2,000 years. The Catholic faith has been in India for 2,000 years. And it has remained in India since St. Thomas the Apostle until today. It has never departed. And yet India never became Catholic. There are Catholics all over the south. St. Francis Xavier brought the Catholicism to Tamil Nadu, the place of Father Pankras, and also St. Thomas Aquinas brought it there, St. Thomas the Apostle brought it there 2,000 years ago. And so there are many different struggles, many battles, So Father experienced very many of them, and it persevered in the faith and made it possible for our Society of St. Pius X to be able to establish itself in India and bring about multiple conversions. Now the Society of St. Pius X work in India has become stagnant. But in fact, in the India, the resistance, our resistance chapel, the chapels that I used to run when I was a priest in India and Father Pancras used to help out, in India we have more people that go to our resistance masses than go to the mainstream Society of St. Pius X masses. We're bigger in India than the mainstream society. We have there Father Sunil, who Father Pancras helped find his vocation and sent him to the seminary, and then I finished off his seminary. And he finished his seminary here in Kentucky and was ordained a priest, and has been working there in India since then. And so that there's the place where, in fact, we are larger than the mainstream society, and it's growing, continuing to slowly grow in Goa and in Tamil Nadu and also in Bangalore, and so that we're continuing to work there. And so in any case, I think that's sufficient for now. And so we'll take a few minute break, and then maybe we'll have a little discussion thing afterwards. But we'll go ahead and close here. So you want to go ahead and say a prayer, Father, to conclude? Oh, 1 second. You go ahead.
Yes, I'd like to thank Father Pancras for giving us your history, and also we're very happy that you're here helping the Father Pancras.
And last year, Father was in Canada with a false resistance to try to shut down our chapel. Well, he didn't know that. I told him that. I said, Father, you're here to shut down our chapel. Oh, no. But anyway, but then it took him a while to figure that out. But nonetheless, it's good to have him here with us. Yeah. We'll go ahead and say the prayer, Father. You can say the prayer.
Finishing?
Yeah, just finish.
In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Ghost, amen. Ave Maria, gratia plena Dominus tecum, benedicta tu in mulieribus, et benedictus fructus ventris tui, Iesus.
Santa Maria, Mater Dei, ora pro nobis peccatoribus.
In nomine Patris et Filii et Spiritus